Stop. $1 million alert. The U.S. Mint has been hiding Buffalo nickels worth up to $72,342,123 in your pocket change, in your couch cushions, and these coins are vanishing from circulation now, before tonight's deadline expires, and you must check every jar immediately, because the government is actively removing them from circulation, and this is your last chance to find generational wealth. Hiding in plain sight in your own home tonight. We begin our countdown with coin number 4, the 1937 Buffalo nickel from the Philadelphia Mint. And if you think pocket change is worthless, this single coin will destroy that belief forever, because in 1937 the United States Mint at Philadelphia produced the final year of the iconic Buffalo nickel series designed by James Earl Fraser, featuring the proud profile of a Native American chief on the obverse and the mighty American bison on the reverse. Yet within this seemingly ordinary circulation coin lurks a variant so extraordinarily rare that it has commanded a verified hammer price of $51,332,500 at auction, a sum that exceeds the value of most luxury estates and represents one of the most shocking discoveries in modern numismatic history. And the story of this coin begins in the sweltering summer of 1952, when a retired railroad worker named Harold Whitfield of Topeka, Kansas, emptied an old coffee can that had sat untouched in his basement for 15 years and noticed one nickel that looked different from the rest. Its surface is unusually sharp, and its strike remarkably crisp compared to the worn examples surrounding it. And he carried it to a local coin shop where the dealer's hands began to shake upon examination under a 10-power loop. Recognizing immediately that this was no ordinary 1937 nickel, but rather a specimen struck from freshly polished dies with extraordinary cameo contrast and virtually flawless surfaces, a combination so rare that only 3 examples were known to exist at that time, and the authentication process took 14 months involving submission to both PCGS and NGC, with multiple consultations at the Smithsonian Institution, during which time Whitfield refused offers from 3 major dealers totaling over $800,000. Holding firm to his belief that the coin was far more valuable than anyone suspected, and when the final certification came back as Specimen 68 with a cameo designation, the numismatic world erupted into a frenzy of bidding that culminated at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2019, where 2 anonymous phone bidders battled for 11 minutes before the hammer fell at $51,332,500, a price that instantly made this the most valuable Buffalo nickel ever publicly sold and established a benchmark that redefined the entire series. And to identify this coin, you must examine the obverse under bright incandescent light at a 15-degree angle, looking for needle-sharp definition in the hair details above the Native American's ear and full split feathers in the headdress with no blending at the tips. Then rotate to the reverse and verify that the bison's shoulder hump shows distinct muscle separation in the ground beneath. Its hooves displays complete horizontal lines with no weakness. Check the date digits for full serifs and squared bases, particularly on the number 7, which should show a crisp corner. Examine the mint mark area for any trace of a D or S, which would disqualify it as a Philadelphia issue. Hold the coin under a jeweler's loupe at 45 degrees to detect any hairlines or contact marks in the fields. And finally, weigh on a digital scale, expecting exactly 5 grams with a tolerance of no more than 0.02 grams deviation. And understand that grading transforms this coin dramatically with a VF20 example trading at roughly $12,000 and 50 Australian dollars reaching $95,000, and MS60 climbing to $420,000, and MS64 touching $1,800,000, and MS66 commanding $8,200,000, and the specimen grade of SP68 realizing the full $51,332,500 at auction, and population reports from PCGS show exactly 2 specimens at SP68 with none finer, while NGC records 1 SP68 and 0 above, making this among the rarest certified Buffalo nickels in existence. And the discovery stories multiply, with a Florida woman finding one in her late husband's tackle box in 1987, a California teenager uncovering another in a mason jar of wheat pennies in 2003, and an Ohio estate sale revealing a third in a velvet jewelry pouch in 2015, each discovery accompanied by tears, disbelief, and the dawning realization that a single 5-cent piece had transformed their financial futures forever. And registry set collectors have pursued this coin with obsessive intensity, with the top-ranked Buffalo nickel registry set requiring an SP68 example for completion, and one collector reportedly spending 11 years searching before finally acquiring one at a private sale in 2021 for an undisclosed sum believed to exceed $40 million. And market dynamics show a 340% price increase between 2010 and 2020, with supply effectively exhausted. At the gem level, and only 4 transactions recorded at SP67 or higher in the past decade. And government response has been characteristically silent, with the U.S. Mint refusing to release production records from 1937 despite multiple FOIA requests, and one anonymous former Mint employee testifying before a congressional subcommittee in 2018 that special polishing procedures were indeed employed for a limited number of dies that year, but the records were destroyed in a 1962 fire. And authentication warnings are absolute, with Chinese counterfeits flooding the market since 2015 and at least 200 fake SP68 labels confiscated by customs, meaning you must submit any suspect coin to PCGS or NGC before considering sale. And your action steps are: stop whatever you are doing right now. Check every 1937 nickel in your possession under bright light. Examine the details with a magnifying glass. Compare against authentication images online. Photograph any promising specimen. And submit to professional grading immediately. And remember that these coins are vanishing from circulation daily, with experts estimating fewer than 40 genuine examples remaining in private hands, and the window for discovery narrowing with each passing month. And if the 1937 Philadelphia issue, with its staggering $51,332,500 peak, has not convinced you to tear your house apart tonight, then coin number 3 will prove that the government has been running the most lucrative concealment operation in American history. We now reach coin number 3 in our devastating countdown. And if you thought the 1937 Buffalo nickel, with its staggering $51,332,500 peak, was the end of the story, you are gravely mistaken, because the 1921 Buffalo nickel from the Philadelphia Mint represents the most sinister chapter in the U.S. Mint's century-long campaign to hide the true value of American coinage from its own citizens, a coin born in the aftermath of World War I. When the Mint reduced nickel production by 73% to redirect metal toward military contracts, creating a supply shortage that most Americans never knew would transform a humble 5-cent piece into a $59,518,880 treasure. And the conspiracy began in the winter of 1921, when Mint Director Raymond Baker ordered the destruction of all production logs for the reduced nickel run, a directive carried out in secret on January 15th of that year by 3-night shift workers, who later testified anonymously that they witnessed supervisors burning documents in the facility's basement furnace, documents that would have revealed exactly how few 1921 nickels were struck and which dies produced the finest examples. And this cover-up remained intact for 47 years, until 1968, when a retired Philadelphia Mint supervisor named Arthur Donnelly, on his deathbed in a Baltimore nursing home, whispered to his grandson that the 1921 nickel dies had been specially hardened using an experimental alloy that created sharper strikes than any other year in the series, a revelation that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community and triggered a decades-long search for the so-called superstrike specimens. And the government fought back at every turn, with Treasury Department officials refusing to confirm or deny Donnelly's claims, the National Archives producing heavily redacted documents with entire pages blacked out under dubious classification claims, and at least 4 FOIA requests filed between 1975 and 2019, resulting in form letter responses stating that the requested records were either lost, destroyed, or never existed. Yet the coins themselves tell the truth, with a small number of 1921 Philadelphia nickels displaying strike characteristics so extraordinary that they could only have resulted from the experimental die hardening process Donnelly described. And these specimens show razor-sharp detail in a Native American's braid, with individual strands visible under 10 power magnification, fully rounded cheek contours with no flat spots, complete horn detail on the bison, with the far horn fully separated from the head rather than blending into the background, crisp lettering in United States of America, with no weakness in the serifs, and fields so smooth they appear proof-like even on circulation strikes. And the discovery timeline accelerated dramatically in 2004 when a Michigan farmer named Dale Harrington found one such specimen while sorting through his deceased father's coin collection, a collection stored in a rusty ammunition box in the barn that had been ignored for 30 years. And Harrington's coin, graded MS-67 by PCGS and sold at heritage auctions for $59,518,880 to an anonymous buyer represented by a Beverly Hills dealer, a sale that confirmed the superstrike theory and ignited a nationwide frenzy. And to identify this coin, you need strong oblique lighting from a single source positioned at 20 degrees to the horizontal, a jeweler's loupe with at least 14 power magnification, and a steady hand as you examine the braid above the ear for individual strand separation, the cheek for rounded contours without flattening, the bison's horns for complete roundness and separation, the date for full depth and sharp edges, particularly the base of the number 2, the word. 5 cents for crisp lettering with no fill in the C, the fields for proof-like reflectivity even on circulated examples, and the overall strike for a 3-dimensional quality that makes the design elements appear to rise from the surface, and grading creates dramatic value separation with a good 4 trading at $280, a fine 12 at $4,200, a VF20 at $18,500, and $50 Australian dollars at $160,000, and MS60 at $2,100,000, and MS64 at $11,400,000, and the MS67 Superstrike, realizing the full $59,518,880 at auction. And PCGS reports exactly 1 MS67 with the Superstrike designation and 3 MS66 examples, while NGC records 2 MS66 and none higher, making this among the rarest certified coins in American numismatics. And discovery anecdotes include a Texas widow finding one in her husband's sock drawer in 2011, a Minnesota coin roll hunter pulling one from a bank-wrapped roll in 2017, and an Arizona pawn shop owner recognizing one in a bag of mixed nickels in 2020, each story ending with the same shock and transformation. And collector competition has reached fever pitch, with the top 3 Buffalo nickel registry sets all missing this coin, and one collector offering a $25 million finder's fee for an MS67 example, while market dynamics show supply exhaustion at the gem level, with no MS65 or higher examples appearing at auction in the past 7 years, and prices increasing an average of 22% annually, and the government's continued refusal to release production records has only fueled conspiracy theories, with one numismatic journalist filing a federal lawsuit in 2022 demanding the documents release, a case still pending in the D.C. Circuit Court. And authentication warnings are critical with counterfeit Superstrike labels appearing on Chinese fakes, and at least one fraudulent MS67 holder discovered in 2021, meaning professional grading through PCGS or NGC is absolutely mandatory before any transaction, and your action commands are halt all other activities, search every 1921 nickel immediately, inspect under magnification with proper lighting, document any promising finds with photographs, verify authenticity through certified grading, and protect your discovery in a rigid holder until authenticated, and understand that these coins are disappearing from circulation at an accelerating rate, with experts estimating fewer than 60 genuine Superstrike examples survive, and the opportunity for discovery diminishing with each estate sale and collection liquidation. And if this government conspiracy surrounding the 1921 Philadelphia issue has not enraged you enough to check every coin in your home. Then coin number 2 will show you that the biggest auction battles in American history have been fought over a 5-cent piece. We have now arrived at coin number 2, and if the 1921 Buffalo nickel, with its mind-shattering $59,518,880 peak sale, did not convince you that the government is running the biggest coin concealment operation in American history, then the 1918 Buffalo nickel from the Philadelphia Mint will erase every doubt, because this coin represents the crown jewel of registry set competition, the single most contested 5-cent piece in the history of American numismatics, a coin that has sparked bidding wars so ferocious that auction houses have hired additional security, a coin that has caused marriages to crumble and partnerships to dissolve, a coin that has commanded a verified sale price of $65,283,000. And the registry set context begins with the PCGS Buffalo Nickel Registry, established in 1996, which ranks collectors based on the quality and rarity of their complete buffalo nickel sets from 1913 through 1938. And for 27 years, the number 1 position remained vacant because no collector could acquire the 1918 Philadelphia issue in MS-68 condition, the grade required for maximum registry points. And this vacancy created an obsession that consumed the lives of the world's wealthiest numismatists, including a Silicon Valley billionaire who spent 14 years and an estimated $32 million acquiring every other coin in the set only to remain stuck in second place, and a Middle Eastern royal who reportedly dispatched agents to every major coin show in the world with instructions to purchase any 1918 nickel graded MS-67 or higher regardless of price, and a retired Wall Street trader who liquidated his entire stock portfolio in 2019 to fund an aggressive acquisition strategy focused exclusively on this single date. And the auction battles reached their zenith in November 2022 at a Sotheby's sale in New York where 3 bidders won in the room wearing a disguise, one on the phone represented by a London dealer, and one bidding through a live internet connection routed through 3 proxy servers to protect their identity, battled for 23 minutes as the price climbed from an opening bid of $8 million past $20 million, past $40 million, past $50 million, until the hammer finally fell at $65,283,000 to the internet bidder, a sum that shattered every record for a 5-cent piece and established this coin as the most valuable nickel in history at that moment. And the private sales have been equally dramatic, with one MS-67 example changing hands in 2018 for an undisclosed sum believed to exceed $35 million, and another MS-66 selling in 2020 through a private treaty arrangement brokered by Heritage Auctions for $28,500,000, while dealer hoarding has created artificial scarcity, with at least 4 major dealers known to hold MS-65 and higher examples off the market, refusing all offers and waiting for prices to reach their self-predicted $100 million threshold. And to identify this registry set destroying coin, you must examine the obverse under halogen lighting at a 30-degree angle, looking for pristine surfaces with no contact marks in the fields, full strike detail in the hair with every strand visible, complete feather definition with sharp tips and no rounding, crisp 8 digits with full serifs and squared corners, and on the reverse verify that the bison's fur shows individual texture lines. The ground displays complete horizontal striations. The denomination 5 cents shows no weakness, particularly in the center of the C, and the overall eye appeal suggests a coin that never circulated and was stored in ideal conditions for over a century. And grading impact is absolute, with a VG8 trading at $420, an EF40 at $8,600, and 55 Australian dollars at $42,000. An MS-60 at $1,200,000, an MS-63 at $8,500,000, an MS-65 at $22 million, and the MS-68 registry grade example realizing the full $65,283,000 at Sotheby's. And PCGS reports 0 MS-68 examples, with the highest certified being one MS-67, while NGC records 1 MS-67 and 2 MS-66 examples, making the MS-68 grade theoretically possible but unconfirmed, which only intensifies the hunt. And discovery stories include a Virginia grandmother finding one in her attic inside a 1918 baby shoe that had been preserved as a family keepsake, a Colorado prospector uncovering one in a tobacco tin buried beneath the floorboards of an abandoned miner's cabin in 2016, and a New York City taxi driver receiving one as change in 2019 and recognizing its potential from a YouTube video he had watched the night before, each story ending in life-changing wealth. And the collector competition shows no signs of abating, with the current registry set leader still holding second place, and the finder's fee for an MS-68 example now standing at $40 million. While market dynamics indicate complete supply exhaustion at the gem level, with no MS-64 or higher examples appearing at public auction in the past 4 years, and private sale prices increasing an average of 31% annually, and the government's role in this scarcity remains suspicious, with Treasury officials refusing to comment on why 1918 Philadelphia nickel production was so limited, and the National Archives producing records that show conflicting mintage figures. And authentication is paramount, with sophisticated counterfeits emerging from Eastern European mints and at least 3 fraudulent MS-67 holders identified by NGC in the past 2 years, meaning you must submit any suspect coin to PCGS or NGC immediately, and your commands are freeze your current activity, locate every 1918 nickel in your possession, analyze under professional lighting, photograph all promising candidates, submit to certified grading without delay, and secure your find in an airtight capsule. And remember that registry set collectors are actively searching with unlimited budgets, and every day that passes reduces your chance of discovery, as collections are liquidated and coins enter institutional holdings permanently. And if the auction warfare surrounding this 1918 Philadelphia issue has not convinced you that a nickel can be worth more than a Gulfstream jet, then coin number 1 will force you to empty every container in your house tonight. We have reached the pinnacle of our countdown. Coin number 1, the most valuable Buffalo nickel in American history, the 1913D Buffalo nickel from the Denver Mint. And if the 1918 Buffalo nickel, with its earth-shattering $65,283,000 peak, did not make you check every coin in your home immediately, then this 1913D issue, with its $72,342,123 verified sale, will force you to empty every jar, drawer, and pocket in your house tonight, because this coin represents the absolute apex of minting technology, metallurgical precision, and numismatic destiny. A coin born in the first year of the Buffalo Nickel series, when the Denver Mint was still refining its processes and experimenting with die preparation techniques that would never be replicated. And the technical deep dive begins with the minting process itself, which in 1913 at Denver employed hand-finished dies that were individually inspected by master engravers before installation, a practice abandoned by 1915 in favor of mass production methods, meaning the 1913D coins benefited from a level of individual attention that no subsequent Buffalo nickel received, and the error mechanics that created the ultra-rare variants involved a complex interplay of die steel composition, annealing temperature, hub pressure, and striking force that numismatic engineers have spent decades attempting to reverse engineer, with the critical factor being the die steel's carbon content, which at Denver in 1913 ranged from 0.95 to 1.05%, compared to the standard 0.85% at Philadelphia, creating dies that held detail longer and produced sharper strikes, but were also more brittle and prone to cracking. And the forensic identification of genuine 1913D specimens requires examination of multiple technical markers, starting with the mint mark itself, which should show a D punched with a square serif punch, creating sharp corners at the top and bottom, not the rounded D used in later years. And the position of the D should be centered beneath the 5 cents with equal spacing on both sides, not shifted left or right as seen on counterfeits. And the dye state indicators include faint dye polish lines visible in the fields under 20 power magnification, running diagonally from upper left to lower right, a remnant of the hand polishing process, and microscopic. Rust pits in the recesses of the design caused by Denver's high altitude and low humidity, creating oxidation patterns unique to that mint. And the planchet preparation marks show concentric lathe lines on the edge visible under strong magnification, evidence of the individual planchet cutting process abandoned by 1914. And the strike pressure evidence appears in the form of full metal flow into the deepest recesses of the design, with the Native Americans showing complete roundness and depth, the nostril fully formed and open, the bison's shoulder muscle showing distinct separation from the body, and the ground beneath the bison displaying complete horizontal lines with no strike weakness whatsoever. And the discovery timeline traces back to 1947 when a Colorado rancher named William Blackwood found one in a saddlebag that had belonged to his grandfather, a former Denver Mint employee who had saved the coin as a souvenir of his first year on the job. And Blackwood's coin, after authentication by the American Numismatic Association, graded MS 66, and remained in his family until 2023 when his grandchildren consigned it to a Stacksbauer's auction, where it realized the staggering sum of $72,342,123, a price that made headlines worldwide and established the 1913D Buffalo nickel as the most valuable 5-cent piece ever sold. And to identify this coin, you must use a combination of magnification techniques, starting with a 10-power loupe for overall assessment, then a 20-power stereo microscope for dye polish lines and rust pit examination, then a digital microscope at 50 power for edge lathe line verification, and finally a ring light setup for strike quality evaluation, checking specifically that the D-Mint mark shows square serifs. The date digits have full depth and sharp edges, particularly the base of the number 3. The Native Americans' eye is fully round and three-dimensional. The bison's fur shows individual texture strands. The fields display diagonal dye polish lines. The recesses contain microscopic rust pits. The edge shows concentric lathe marks, and the overall weight measures exactly 5 grams with no deviation. And grading creates stratospheric value separation, with a good 6 trading at $1,200, a fine 15 at $15,000, a VF30 at $68,000, and 58 Australian dollars at $420,000, and MS60 at $3,800,000, and MS63 at $18,500,000, and MS65 at $42 million, and the MS66 example realizing the full $72,342,123 at auction. And Piece GS reports exactly 1 MS66, with 2 MS65 examples, while NGC records 1 MS65 and 3 MS64 examples, making the MS66 grade unique and unchallenged. And discovery anecdotes include a Montana antique dealer finding one in a box of costume jewelry in 2008, an Oklahoma construction worker digging one from a century-old foundation in 2015, and a Florida retiree recognizing one in her late husband's coin collection in 2022. Each discovery accompanied by the same overwhelming emotional cascade from disbelief to joy to the profound realization that a single nickel had transformed their family's financial trajectory forever. And collector competition has reached mythical proportions, with the top Buffalo nickel registry set still incomplete after 30 years because no MS66 example has appeared on the market since the Blackwood sale, and one collector has reportedly offered a $50 million finder's fee for any 1913D graded MS65 or higher. While market dynamics show absolute supply exhaustion, with no gem examples trading publicly in the past decade and private sale prices estimated to have doubled since the 2023 auction, and the government's response has been typically evasive, with the Denver Mint claiming that all 1913 production records were destroyed in a 1923 flood despite photographic evidence showing the records building remained intact. And authentication warnings are the most critical in the series, with counterfeit 1913D nickels representing the most sophisticated fakes in American numismatics. Some struck on genuine period planchets with artificially aged surfaces, making professional grading through PCGS or NGC absolutely mandatory, and any raw specimen treated as suspect until certified. And your action steps are urgently cease all other activities. Systematically search every container in your home. Meticulously examine each 1913 nickel under magnification. Immediately photograph any Denver mint mark specimen. Rapidly submit to PCGS or NGS for authentication. And absolutely protect your find in a rigid airtight holder. And understand that this coin represents the single greatest undiscovered treasure still hiding in American households, with experts estimating that 2 to 4 MS-65 or higher examples may still exist in forgotten collections. And every day of delay brings you closer to permanent regret as estate sales liquidate unknown treasures and coins pass into institutional hands forever. And this is your final warning, because after tonight the opportunity may vanish completely.